Today, we're gonna take a little road trip. Alright, so we made it up here by Rexburg. We are today going to do a little pruning. We're actually at my in-laws. They are out of the country in Croatia on a mission right now. And so we're going to prune some of their apple trees up here. I wanted to show you guys how to do that. We have apple trees at our place, but they are not very good condition and they're kind of small. So I figured you'd get a better idea of how to prune these on these bigger trees. So I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to prune both of these trees today. So we're gonna start with this little one first, partially because it'll be quicker and partially because I wanna take some cuttings off of it and we're actually gonna graft them onto a couple trees at our place. And so that's the first thing we're gonna do, is take some of the cuttings off of this tree that we're gonna save. So we're gonna grab these cuttings from these long shoots coming up. Follow them down right here. You can see that's where they grew from last year. So that's where the new wood starts and it comes up that whole length. So we're going to cut a bunch of those off right there. So here's another one, started right there, grew up that whole thing. So that's what we're going to do, is cut just a bunch of those off. We'll get about 20 or 30 of those. There's probably 500 of them in there. We'll just get some good ones and then we'll go on to actually pruning this thing. So we've cut off all the ones that we want to keep. We're just going to continue to cut off all these tall ones, what they typically call a water shoot. So anyone that's sticking straight up really long, we're going to cut off, but we're going to leave most of them. Let's see one we cut off here. And he's cut it off. We left one bud there and one bud on this back side. So we're going to leave just a couple buds on each one that we cut off to start. So as we go through these, we're going to take a few steps as we cut each one. Step one is to cut off all those water shoots and leave just a little bit of buds behind. As I get more into the middle of this tree, I cut around the edge mostly. As I get more to the middle, I don't want to leave as many buds on these water shoots. I want the middle of this tree to be as open as we can, and so we'll just cut them off right down to the, lots of cars. So we'll cut them right down as short as we can as we get to the middle. So as we're cutting off, all this that we're cutting off is last year's growth. As we do it, these ones on the end, you can see we've left untouched. They're not growing straight up, they're growing more out. This one is growing up quite a bit, but it's not real tall, so I'm going to leave it. As it grows some other branches, it might pull it down a little bit and go out more. Next year, who knows, that might go. But for this year, we're going to leave that one. A few of them like that. Here's one that's growing up we didn't get. We don't need to leave that one growing straight up. We'll cut it off. So now that we have all of the water shoots cut off, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off anything that looks dead or diseased, which as I was going around I was looking, I didn't see anything that looks dead or diseased, so we're good on that. the next step is to go for any branches that are rubbing. So we got right here, these branches are not rubbing yet, but they will be soon. And so we might as well train those to go somewhere else so that they're not rubbing. So we'll get rid of a couple of those. I'm just gonna get rid of this top one. Let that bottom one go. We'll go look around for a minute, see if we can find anything else that's rubbing like that. This tree is pretty small and it's been pruned every year, so there wasn't anything rubbing. The next thing we're going to look at is anything that's growing in towards the middle. So we've got one, and you can see this branch right here. It's growing in towards the middle of the tree. We want to leave that middle as open as we can. So we'll take some of these out. They're growing towards the middle. These little ones will probably be okay for this year. As they get a little older, those ones will come out as well. And another couple in here. So here's one right here. Well, they're not rubbing. And they're not growing into the middle, but they are crossed kind of weird. And as they get bigger, they'll definitely start rubbing. And so we're gonna not let that get bad down the road. Just take that one off. And last, we're gonna take off anything that is hanging down. We don't need any branches growing straight down. There's just a couple. We can see this branch here. It's not too bad, but it is growing down quite a bit, and it doesn't really need to be there. So we're just going to take that one off. And one on this side over here. Take that one off. Maybe one right here. And I think the last one, we'll just take that one off. All right, that looks like a pretty good looking tree now. We'll step back and take a look at it. All right, chimpanzee, let's see you swinging.
What?
Let's see you swing from that tree like a chimpanzee. So we're going to get started on this bigger tree. We're going to do the same pattern. I'm going to start by cutting off all these water shoots. Then we'll look for anything that's dead or diseased, anything that's crossing over and rubbing together, and then we'll just look at the overall shape of the tree. Clean out any ones that are on the inside that don't need to be there. Here we go.
Sometimes winning's losing fast and moving past who is right and who is wrong. And sometimes leaving's all I've got, even when I know it's not. 'Cause our love is too strong for that kind of talk to be more than a thought. I'll be jealous just to see you fill another's lonely night. So I'm sending you a message through a broken satellite. I love you, I love you, I love you. Sundown to sunrise.
Alright, so we're done pruning those. If you noticed, that bigger tree I pruned a lot more aggressively. We're not trying to grow that tree, mostly we're trying to keep it productive and keep its shape. At this point, if these were my trees, I'd go back through and look at overall shape of them and maybe change a few things, looking for the future shape I want them to be. Since they're not my trees, I'm just going to leave them as they are, and when Andrea's parents get back, they can change them if they want. But we're done for now. I kept these cuttings, these Scions. I just put them in a pitcher of water just to keep them wet. I'm going to take them now and go put them in some just wet paper towel, and then we'll get them home and stick them in our fridge. We'll keep them like that in the fridge until we're ready to graft them. Well, we had to rush off really quick. I haven't mentioned this before, but about 2 weeks ago, Andrew was in a car accident and completely destroyed our car. So we are looking for a new car, so we had to run and go test drive a car real quick. But we made it back home, and I want to show you the final thing that we've done with these cuttings. So the last thing we had to do was simply take them. We got the fridge out here in the garage. We just wrapped them up a little bit. So all I've done is just wrapped them up with some wet paper towels, and that's just saran wrap around them just to keep them moist there. So we've got them wrapped up like that. We will keep these in the fridge until we are ready to do anything with them. That'll keep them dormant. So they just go right in there. They will stay in that fridge until we are ready to use them. I'm planning on grafting these onto a couple of our existing trees that don't have very good fruit, as well as we've got a new kind of volunteer apple tree coming up that I'm going to graft it onto as well. We'll get a couple of those. I believe those are sweet 16s. They're the ones that Andrew's parents have that are good. That bigger tree, it's got good apples on it, but they're not the best. That smaller tree has some really good apples, so we want to get some of those growing in our yard. As we get around to grafting these on, I'll show you our trees and why I didn't show you us pruning them, but they are in pretty rough shape. The owners before us did not take care of those trees, and so they were way overgrown. And so I've been trying to shape them, but mostly I've just been cutting them to bits, trying to get them down. They were like 30-foot tall trees when we moved in, so we've been cutting them down a little bit and getting them into more of a fruit tree shape. But anyway, watch for the next couple weeks. Well, probably about 3 or 4 weeks, we will show you how we're going to graft these. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. That helps us out quite a bit, and we'll catch you guys next time.